Tuesday, October 8th, 2019. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we'll be covering. PlayStation 5 made a surprise announcement today, letting us know more details about their upcoming new console, including the name, the release date, and information about the new controllers. And the world's first artificial intelligence drone racing league begins competition today, with the Drone Racing League's CTO claiming, "We're here to watch as robotics evolve beyond humanity." Focusing more on the human applications of tech, we'll be joined by Barnaby Perks, the founding CEO of Oxford VR, to discuss the uses of virtual reality in alleviating medical conditions. And we'll also be joined by Casey Goss, the CEO of a company called Viral Launch. The company's goal is to help retailers achieve successful sales on Amazon. All that and more coming up on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. There it is. Hello, everybody. This is Digital Trends Live. Thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Of course, Digital Trends Live, broadcast live every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more, all while broadcasting live across a number of different platforms. We're on Periscope, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn Live, YouTube, Facebook, Dailymotion, Apple News, 2 different mobile apps, a smart television app, and at digitaltrends.com/live. That was almost in one breath. I will get there at some point, but thanks for joining us. You can drop in your comments, your questions, whatever you want to discuss on whatever platform you're on, and I know we have a lot of opinions out there about some of the things we're going to be discussing. We want to see those opinions, but to start off, I'm Greg Nibbler, joined by Hanif Jackson. Hello, Hanif.
Hey, never mind me. I mean, let's talk about that platform roll you just did there. That was
rolling it out. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's almost a year in the making.
You deserve some sort of award, surely.
If they give out any kind of awards for intros in one breath, I would like to be submitted for that. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I would vote for you, especially.
That's it. It's the pinnacle of my career. Where else do you go after that? But we do have other things to talk about. Let's discuss some tech headline news, and we have a lot to cover today, including some pretty interesting ones. But to start off, this is definitely one that's been trending this morning, and it has to do with PlayStation 5. We finally got some more announcements. We've seen PlayStation kind of rolling out a bunch of news lately. There's the PS4 update that's out, and so everybody should be getting that actually today, I believe, that you can download that new PS4 update. But we're talking about fast forwarding a little over a year, because that is when PlayStation 5 is going to be released, and that is what it's going to be called, the PS5. So this all comes from a press release and a blog post that came out from Jim Ryan, who is the president of Sony Interactive Entertainment. So this was Jim Ryan's post, and we've seen some things slowly come out about the PS5. A few months ago, they had some news, and we'll kind of recap some of that as well. But definitely some big news today, confirming the name, PS5, the release date, which is going to be holiday of 2020, is what they said, according to the post. And then on top of that, we got to find out more about the controller and a little bit more about how the whole gaming system works. So let's kind of walk through some of that. I guess, Hanif, I know that you are a gamer. I want to know
I am,
your
in
initial
fact,
opinions.
a gamer.
You are, in fact,
I
a
do
gamer.
The gaming
as the
thing
kids say. Yes.
Sometimes. Occasionally. But yeah, this is huge. So there's actually a bit of a spirited discussion going on in our internal gaming chat right now about the controller. It's kind of interesting because they put out some details actually about the new controller. One of them being the adaptive triggers and this new haptic feedback, right? So in the post, it kind of gives the example of, well, you'll be able to feel the difference between hitting the wall like when you're in a racing car game versus like being tackled in a football game.
Yeah.
Like you'll be able to feel the difference. I don't know what that all entails, but I'm imagining it's going to be something a little bit more robust than just the current rumble system that's in place right now, right? Because all it is now is just the whole entire controller kind of vibrates now, but just at various intensities.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining it's going to be some type of like positional vibration, right?
Something more sensitive when you're pulling.
And then the other thing is the adaptive triggers, right? So with that, the triggers are going to have increased resistance. So like when you pull a bow, or if you're in some type of like sniping situation or something, the trigger pull is going to be a little bit more responsive and reactive. So yeah, they've actually given the controller out to developers already. So I guess they're going to let them play with it, see what they come up with. Now, one thing I wish they would do, and I maybe they have some type of test group out there, is they need to have like almost, I feel like, beta testing for the controllers for the players, because like
this is
that's
like
not
a terrible idea.
It's like it's one thing to let the developers get at it and see what they can come up with, which I think is great. But has anyone consulted us
Right.
But that's just my opinion.
Dear Hanif, what do you think? Then that's what we're talking about, though, and that's what we want to get your opinions, because I think that is important. Just like you said, in our own internal debates here at Digital Trends, there's some big debates going on about whether this is good or bad, or where this is going, compared to the PS4 controller. And what happens with this is probably going to be the same thing with Microsoft when they release theirs, and so on. So, what do you think about this? What kind of improvements do you want to see in a controller? I like the idea of increased haptic feedback. Their example of, like pulling a bow in a game, where you can actually feel the tension as you pull back on it, or you're driving under rough conditions, so you have to press down harder. I think that's something that can definitely add to it. I don't feel like that's a revolutionary change.
It's
where this is something that's,
I wouldn't say revolutionary, but I think it's a necessary addition at this stage in gaming. It's something that maybe they probably should have had, but maybe just something the technology wasn't quite there yet.
Yeah.
So now, we have it. So yeah, of course they're putting it out.
A couple of other things too that we do know, just in case you weren't aware, it's still going to be a disc system for the PlayStation 5. You're still going to have to get a disc. They're going to be 100 gigs a piece. You will also have to download onto the system, but you'll have a little bit more control. You can pick, whether you want to download the multiplayer side or just the single player side, so you don't have to fill up your hard drive completely with it. It will be a solid state drive, and they're saying that's why they're still using the disc, just because you can download it on there and it'll go so fast. It's a little bit different than some of the rumors we heard about that you would be mostly playing online, which is a lot of what we're seeing with like Google Stadia.
Yeah.
And even some talk about Microsoft maybe going that way as well. But this will still be a disc. It will be backward compatible, which is really good, because I hate it when they have a new system and you can't play your old games on it.
For sure.
So that's important.
But don't be fooled. You'll most likely need a solid internet connection to download, certain updates. So.
Yeah, definitely. That'll definitely be part of it. And the other thing, a couple other things, are going to have an 8-core CPU. Just kind of reading off some of the things that we've learned about it. AMD's 3rd gen Ryzen line, custom GPU. They're going to have 3D audio, so whatever that exactly means. Support for 8K gaming as well as for 4K gaming. So it's going to be definitely a forward. You're kind of future-proofing it a little bit there, putting that 8K aspect into there. And gaming, we've talked about this before, gaming is going to be where 8K is really going to be utilized. I feel like before we start seeing it on Netflix or anything like that, because that takes a whole different ecosystem for people to start filming in that, versus gaming, you can get into that a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what's the challenge there is going to be the developers and them developing that 8K content, because that's kind of a big ask at this stage in the game, and it's not impossible. They're already doing it, and we just need to see more of it available. The more 8K games there are, then that's going to be more justification for that.
Yeah,
so.
I could see them coming out with something right out of the gate, some big giant A-list game that has an 8K faction to it, or something like that.
Comes to mind Uncharted, something like
that.
Something
Uncharted
in a
game.
Big lush green environment that just you can really get immersed into it.
Because they're going to want to show it off.
Oh, absolutely.
Alexis, back, excited about the whole console and controller, going to be something good, no doubt. Alexis, welcome back. And yeah.
On that note, to follow that up, I just want to say that our very own gaming editor said that the best controller is the keyboard and mouse.
Oh, wow, okay. All right.
So take that as you will.
Is that Felicia that said that?
It was, in fact.
Wow, Felicia Miranda. All right, calling her shots right there. But still, this is still going to be cool. So interesting news about the PlayStation 5. It means that next year is really going to be a big year in gaming, because we'll have Google Stadia coming out. It's going to be rolling out. You have PlayStation 5. You better believe that Microsoft is going to be announcing something as well. They're not just going to sit there and be like, oh, well, I guess this PlayStation's here. That's not going to happen. So we're going to be seeing a lot going on, a lot of discussion. Let us know what you think in the comments on whatever platform you're watching, and you can read more about this announcement at digitaltrends.com. Let's continue on. It's time for some Read 'em and Weep. When we talk about comments, I know it happens fast. They just hit you just like that, and we got to see what some of the comments are. So these are comments that come through across the platforms that we are on, which is pretty much everything. And we do read the comments here at Digital Trends. We're not like those other places. No. We read the comments, and we even respond back right now directly to you. So just so you know, somebody's actually paying attention. Bud, let's see what you have to say. See the wonders of the universe with these awe-inspiring photos of space. Oh boy, I love the space ones. People should research this, because somebody takes data that Hubble Space Telescope gathers and draws these photos from their own imagination on a computer. Not one single photo is actual, but don't take my word for it. Please Google it for yourself, and you will find that I am telling you the truth. Well, Bud?
Bud.
There's a lot here. Hanif,
Wow.
I'd like to give you first shot here at your response to Bud's comment here.
He's. I think I know what he's getting at, and yeah, there's a little bit of image manipulation.
Wait
that
a
happens
minute.
There.
This is not where I expected this to go.
Bud's not wholeheartedly incorrect here.
Wait, are you implying that people are drawing stars onto these images?
I wouldn't say drawing stars, but maybe there's a little bit of enhancement that happens.
What? Okay, Hanif, how do you feel about chemtrails? Never mind. 5G?
It's coming soon.
Okay. All right. I think there's a lot that we need
Did
to
I answer those questions right?
No. I think there's a lot that we can get into with this. And Hanif, thank you for your response. Bud, I do appreciate that.
I'm not getting invited back, am I?
Oh, no. You're getting invited back for a whole segment. All right. Hayush, regarding this drone can shoot down rogue drones at 500 meters. We're going to actually be discussing this later on in the show. While they create drones and then the anti-drone sounds like a lot of money for companies, they can get available to terrorists already so that there's demand of new drones which can fool these guns and then the foolproof guns.
What?
I think I see the article about that is this new drone that's able to, actually this is a different one that can shoot down rogue drone. Okay, it's a drone gun. We're going to talk about an anti-drone drone in a little bit. Boy, this is a lot of drone talk.
Yes.
Anyway, I kind of see where you're going. Yes, you're going to make drones, then you got to make technology that'll take down the drones. But I mean, what else are you supposed to do? I don't know how else that works.
Yeah, I mean, what else do you do with a rogue drone? You gotta find a way to get rid of it, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of drone talk, a lot of drones, a lot of anti-drones. Think about it. It's all circular, and they're drawing those onto the images anyway. So, all right, Payush, thank you for that comment regarding this drone gun. Alex Wanamaker on Facebook. Here's everything announced at Amazon's September 2019 event. I'm excited for Samuel L. Jackson on my Echo. That's going to be amazing. Me, Alexa, what's the weather tomorrow? Hanif.
It's rain!
Okay, I just want to I want to test your censoring abilities. Alexa, play some Rolling Stones. Okay,
Hold
we're not
on to
gonna,
your
we don't have
butts.
to do that. That failed.
Okay,
you got to try some things out every now and then.
No, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready.
I threw you under the bus there, totally.
But
but
it's not
here's-
every day you get to try out your best Samuel L.
Samuel L.
Jackson.
Jackson voice.
Like that one caught me off guard.
I did. We don't know what's coming when it comes to these comments. So sometimes, we're live. But that is an interesting point. I'm probably going to get that just because it's Samuel L. Jackson, just to test it out. But then I'm going to get annoyed.
Didn't they have some type of?
John Legend.
Oh, okay, that's what
John
it was.
Legend.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
He was on there. And that was great, but the Samuel L. Jackson one I'm interested about. But also they're gonna have other celebrities too.
Oh, cool.
So that's that you can have these made in there. So clearly we need a digital trends one with everybody from digital trends,
Yes.
where you can have your own voices. I think I like this idea. All right, well, Alex, thank you again. We comment live here on Digital Trends Live, and that sometimes happens. All right, Bob C. Derpington. Excellent. Regarding China has broken new ground, successfully growing cotton on the moon. So that's why shipping from China takes forever. That is a solid dad joke.
Oy.
It's been a while since we've
Oy.
had one on this show.
These are the
And I gotta say,
comments.
Bob C. Derpington, you were successful in that. Thank you so much.
This is the weeping part of Read 'em and Weep.
This is optional weeping is involved. You can do that at home if that's what you need to do. But Bob, I appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you. Come again. Nathan Explosion on YouTube. Regarding LG Z9 880-inch 880-inch 8K OLED hands-on review, simply superb. I don't care how good, how big, or how many features it has. No TV on the planet should be over $3,000. Well, no TV that I'm going to pay for is going to be over $3,000 either.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean you can't go look at that television. That is a really expensive one, though.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like tens of thousands, I believe.
But if you're gonna push innovation,
Right.
and price then becomes no object, and bigger, better,
You need somebody to buy it.
more things, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Because eventually that'll roll down to us. But yes, I agree. That is an expensive television. I don't even think in that video, I believe Caleb says you're not going to buy this.
Yeah.
But it's pretty amazing. So that's part of the review of that. But we have lots to cover here, and I thank everybody who leaves your comments on whatever platform you do. This is Digital Trends Live, and we appreciate that every single day. Let's continue on, though, with some other trending news. We've got a few other things, and this is something that I know a lot of people are excited about right now, and it's Mac OS rolling out the new Catalina update for their operating system. And I got to ask, Hanif, do you use this system?
Yeah.
Have you been testing it out?
So I haven't used Catalina yet,
Yes.
but I'm excited to use it. Hopefully I can get my hands on that today, crossing all of my fingers and toes.
Yep. It's rolling out now, so I'm sure a lot of people, it may take a day or two, but
Okay,
it is
so
rolling out.
yeah, as soon as it's available to us, I would love to get my hands on it. I use the macOS ecosystem here at work, so and I'm not biased one way or the other between Mac and Windows. I like to say that I'm ambidextrous in both.
Right.
But this update's super cool. There's a lot of new features. One of them is the ability to basically have separate work areas now.
Yeah,
so you can kind of split your environments, which I think is super cool, especially if you want to have so for me, I'd be working in Photoshop, but I might have my tool palette elsewhere. I think that's really handy.
Yeah.
There's some cool productivity features.
I know with Sidecar is one of those features,
Yeah.
where you can split screens with an iPad. That's a great feature. A couple other cool features of it: voice control, more interactive voice control, which I think is going to be good. That's something that you're going to see in a lot of devices going forward. But they showcase some of the different ways that can help for different people who have maybe some disabilities and being able to have voice control involved in it. At least that's what they showcase. But there's a lot of applications to that. So Sidecar, voice control, but this is also the official end of iTunes. So now it
Cue
is
the
going
death
away.
reel.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we don't have a death reel?
We don't have death reel
okay.
up, but we'll have to work on that. But it's now going to be, of course, Apple Podcasts, Apple TV, and Apple Music. And so all three of those are going to be split. They're all their own separate application to keep them away from each other, which does seem, I guess I can understand it to a certain extent because then you can focus, hyper-focus on each one. But it also, in this era of bundling everything, it seems kind of weird to split them all up. That they didn't make it revamp.
It does seem a little weird, but also iTunes was just getting so bloated and out of control.
It's
and
clunky.
Its own monster within itself.
And you're right.
I think the time was coming.
Yeah, that this split was needed. Yeah. Well, there is that. So again, this is all part of this Catalina launch, and you can check out everything at digitaltrends.com on that. One other thing, though, there is also rumors that with Apple TV Plus, they may go back and bundle that with Apple Music. So not Apple TV, but Apple TV Plus with going with Apple Music. So as a bundled package, which I could definitely see that being the case.
Yeah, and I think that's them pushing that their new services. So
yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
Well, we'll have to see. So that is again the Catalina update. You can check out all the details about it, everything that's going on with it, all the new features, all the new things you can do. We have extensive reviews at Digital Trends. Luke has a video up on YouTube that you can follow along with. So check all of that out. Let us know what you think in the comments, as always. So that is the new update to the macOS Catalina. The wine mixer. All right.
Sidecar.
I mean, you got to say the wine mixer in there somehow. I mean, sorry. They know what they were doing. All right. Let's go on to something else. This is an interesting article that came out about Fortnite, and I really want to get your opinion on this and everybody who's watching opinion on this. And it has to do with a lawsuit that is going on against Epic Games, and it has to do with a pair of Canadian parents who have claimed that Fortnite was knowingly designed to be addictive. And they say it releases dopamine at a rate that's similar to cocaine, leading to a chemical addiction to playing this game. They said that their legal team believes that Epic Games purposely created Fortnite to be as addictive as possible, and going so far as to hiring psychologists. This is in the actual lawsuit in a statement by their attorney. Hiring psychologists that, quote, really dug into the human brain, and they really made the effort to make it as addictive as possible. They knowingly put on the market a very, very addictive game, which was also geared toward youth. So that is their quote. They're saying this.
A game geared towards youth?
Yeah. Now, I want to know what you think of this, Hanif. You game a lot. How do you feel about this kind of statement? Do you think this is something that Epic would do?
I think this is just ludicrous. This is, I'm no legal expert by any means, but I don't see this lawsuit going anywhere for a multitude of reasons. Where do we start with this? Yeah, couldn't you apply the same argument to almost anything, right? The old saying, too much of anything is not a good thing, right?
I mean, I think there's no denying that Fortnite is certainly a major powerhouse.
Sure.
You know, makes billions of dollars. There's billions of people that play it. But at the same time, it is a game. Games, aren't they just knowingly designed to be addictive? They want you to keep playing it. I mean, I think, is that like a contract you go in knowing when you're
Sure. In
playing a
fact,
game?
I sometimes seek out addictive games.
Right.
There's something to that.
But then you look at the other side, it's targeted toward youth. So is
Sure.
there something there that is an issue that should be thought about as far as, you know, and again, this is just a lawsuit. Nothing's proven on any of this. So we're just discussing the idea of this.
So to back up too, though, I think the other part of this story was the headline with this article was pretty sensational, to say the least, because what they were saying is like it's as addictive as cocaine, right? Which
And to be clear, this isn't our article. This is the one time where I'm pulling one from somewhere else. I'm sure we'll be writing.
But this is that headline just that's just a head scratcher for sure, because I just don't know how they're drawing these comparisons. We played Fortnite here in the office, and I was able to go back to my desk and perform just fine. I think I got my job done just fine for the rest of the day. I don't.
But you're not one of these youths that they're talking about.
Oh, I see. I'm not. Okay. Well, it's hard for me to verbalize how ludicrous this really is.
I think we're getting the impression, that you are not a fan of this lawsuit. Well, that's one of the things that they're saying. And again, I think you're right. This isn't going to go anywhere. This lawsuit's not going to probably go anywhere. But it does open up this idea of how game manufacturers operate. I think, just to play the devil's advocate, any kind of major corporation is going to do things a little bit under the radar sometimes that happen, and sometimes you need exposure or lawsuits to change the way that things are done. And if they are hiring psychologists to be like, hey, how addictive can we make this? That does seem a little bit, probably, I don't know if that's illegal in any way, shape, or form. As we said, we're not attorneys here, but worth a discussion of, is that right? Is that okay?
I don't think it's wrong either. I mean, maybe they were kind of having a little bit of forethought and being like, whoa, we made something big here. Let's check in with the experts just to make sure we didn't overdo it.
Maybe that's going one way.
I'm not sure that that's what happened, but look, I think just because they hired psychologists and they made a good product, you're going to have haters. You're going to have parents that are mad because they maybe are not good parents.
And that's 100.
I just saying.
Yeah, but that's 100% true. That could be the case as well. But yeah. That's what we're taking a look at. So I just wanted to bring that up. It's a trending topic right now. Wanted to get your thoughts. It's something to think about when it comes to that side of things on where that could go. Maybe this one doesn't go anywhere, but thinking about it in the future. We do need to get to one other topic here because I know we need to get to our break. We're going to be going on location here shortly, but this is another trending topic. It has to do with the Drone Racing League, which we're becoming increasingly familiar with. If you're not, it's now, they're on NBC at this point. So it's becoming a major league, but it involves humans flying drones. Now they are launching a separate thing called the Artificial Intelligence Robotic Racing League, which starts today with all autonomous drones racing against each other. So you have programmers that program them, but then they go off and do their own thing, and these things race against each other. A statement from Drone Racing League's chief technology officer said, "We're here to watch as robotics evolve beyond humanity." That is what he said. I mean, he's not even dancing around it there. So that's taking a look at the specific drone. That's the Racer AI. So that's an autonomous drone. And this is part of their videos that they put out, showcasing this.
What are they using the autonomous ones for?
They're racing in. They have a whole setup. They have a whole race course that they go through.
Interesting. So are they going to be alongside human-piloted
Not
ones?
yet. So that is actually a good point. So it starts today, actually, is when the league officially launches, and it's going to lead up with a whole bunch of different races, but it will culminate in December with a human versus the autonomous drone.
Yeah, that's super interesting. That's like, literally like bringing a video game to life, right? You have the humans versus the bots.
100%, yeah. Yeah, and they believe that the autonomous drones are going to end up being better than the humans. They might be right. But right now, if you've ever watched any of this league, it is pretty fun.
Super cool.
It's pretty cool.
Beyond cool.
Just how fast and crazy they fly these things. But yeah, it's basically a real-life video game. They're saying that the robot is going to end up beating them. But that's what they launched. It's all leading up to that. So coming up in December, I just want to make sure people
I think drone racing is more addictive than cocaine. So
There it is, a statement by Hanif right here on the show. Well, I know we need to get to a break because we have so many amazing guests coming on the show today. I just want to say Bill Oakley is going to be here. If you're a fan of The Simpsons, you probably know who Bill Oakley is. He wrote Who Shot Mr. Burns and was the head writer and producer for The Simpsons for a long time, but now he's an Instagram fast food critic superstar. He's going to be joining us later on in the show to talk all about that and what it's like to become a fast food star and all the things that he's doing. I'm really excited for that. Also, coming up next, we have a great guest. I'm going to tell you about that, but first, thank you, Hanif.
Hey, thank you.
I got it out. Thank you, Hanif, for joining us. Coming up next, we have Barnaby Perks, the founding CEO of Oxford VR, to talk about their platform for virtual reality and how it's helping out people in the medical world. So we're going to discuss that and so much more. Stick around, drop in your comments. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks for joining us. Drop in your comments and questions as we go throughout the show because we like to include those in the interviews and discussions that we get to have. World Mental Health Day is coming up on October 10th, and in that spirit, we're going to talk about some of the different ways that technology is being utilized to help alleviate some of those conditions. Joining us, we have Barnaby Perks, who is the founding CEO of Oxford VR. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
There's so much to unravel with this and what you're doing with your platform and how virtual reality is working. I love to see different applications, but can we get a little bit of a background on you yourself and what inspired you to found this company?
Yeah, so I've been working in digital mental health now for about 10 years, initially in telepsychiatry and then more latterly in the VR space. And I got together with Professor Daniel Freeman from the University of Oxford about 2.5 years ago now. He was in the process of spinning out a business from the University of Oxford, Oxford VR, based on 18 years of research he'd been doing into the use of VR to understand and to treat mental health conditions, particularly quite severe conditions like psychosis. So we spun the business out, as I said, about 2.5 years ago, and I joined as founding CEO to join Daniel and built the team from there.
So working in the field for that long, what were some of the things that you saw in virtual reality that you thought this is really something that could help people out?
Well, the really big problem there's several problems with current provision of mental health services. One is that we are totally reliant on a large pool of trained therapists, but actually there aren't enough therapists to treat the patients that we have. So if we look in the UK, for example, where we're treating about 20% of prevalence, that means 80% of people with mental health conditions go untreated. And that's with a very large and very well managed workforce, but there just aren't enough to go around. So to get that treatment level up from 20% up to 30, 40, 50, 60%, we need to either train more therapists, which really isn't practical or feasible, or find technology solutions to enable us to use those therapists more efficiently so they can actually maybe see patients with fewer visits, but, or critically have some patients treated by technology itself. And what VR does, which is really special, is not only does it give you the ability to deliver treatments through technology, but it also gives us the ability to provide treatments that are really quite engaging for patients. So normal therapy is quite challenging to do for a lot of people. It's quite difficult. It can be quite unpleasant. Doing stuff in VR, people tend to find quite a pleasant experience. And critically, what we're doing is something which in normal therapy is very difficult to do, which is enabling people to conduct experiments with their fears, with their intrusive thoughts, with their safety behaviors. So typically in therapy, you'll talk about your intrusive thoughts and you'll talk about the triggers of those intrusive thoughts and safety behaviors, and then you'll be expected to practice the strategies you developed outside therapy. Here, what we're doing is actually practicing those strategies inside therapy. So it's a much more dynamic and much more impactful therapeutic session.
Talking about just mental health as a crisis of its own, maybe we can just get a wider scale, because I want to go into specific things that you're doing in the VR, but to give a wider scale of how big of an issue this is and just in general, globally, and then also focus down on, is the VR focused on one facet of mental health? I know it's a very wide gamut of things that could fall under that category, or is it more of a general use case?
Sure. So, the problem is enormous. It affects 1 in 4 people at any one time. So it's actually an incredibly prevalent disease or set of diseases. And the problem is that globally, it largely goes untreated. I think the UK's got pretty high treatment rates at treating 20%. That's quite high globally. In most of the rest of the world, particularly in parts of the developing world, there is just no treatment for mental health available. So it's a big, big problem to solve. And in terms of the VR, we focused initially on a psychosis program, and the work that we're doing within psychosis is not treating the psychosis itself, but the avoidant behavior that goes along as a symptom of psychosis. So you'll find a lot of people withdraw from society. They find it hard to go out. They find it hard to do everyday things like going to a store, going to see their doctor, all things which are really challenging and very limiting for them. So, for example, if you find it hard to go to your doctor and you get ill, you'll just be sick and potentially have quite disastrous consequences of that. And so what we've done is created a series of environments that enable people to challenge their intrusive thoughts in a number of public spaces, such as a street, a GP surgery, a bar, a cafe, a convenience store. And actually, we're building an office environment for that as well as we speak. And building on from psychosis, we're also using exactly the same treatment, modified slightly, for depression and anxiety disorders. So people with depression and anxiety will also withdraw for slightly different reasons, also withdraw from society to some extent. And treating that symptom is a key part of treating those disorders. And we're in the process of building some very specific treatments for depression and specific anxiety disorders as well. And what you're looking at on screen at the moment, or you just saw on the screen, was a treatment that we built for fear of heights, which we built last year. We put it through a clinical trial published in Lancet Psychiatry in July 2018. And that was really our first prototype that enabled us to then focus on these more serious mental health conditions.
I was watching that right now. I have a mild fear of heights, and so something like that in real life would make me uncomfortable, so that would probably help me out a lot to practice that. Not that I'm walking over too many bridges like that, but still, it would help. So looking at that from so many different, different avenues that you can actually help people. Let's get into talking a little bit about programming this and how that works and how you decide what kind of platforms to put out there. And then I want to talk about just availability from there. But with all of these different issues, who's doing the programming of the games? How does that actually happen?
So we have our own development team in London. So we hired a group of people who are all ex-AAA games industry or media. So a number of them worked on Hollywood movies. And these guys, we've got character artists, environment artists, animators, and programmers to stitch the whole thing together. And they sit in our central London office and build the programs. And they're all designed through our treatment development team, which is led by Daniel Freeman, who's a professor of psychology at University of Oxford.
So definitely a lot of very informed people who are getting involved in this to make this work. Yeah. Looking at it for availability, I guess, can I talk about what VR platform this is actually on that you can use this on? Because that's something we're seeing more and more systems roll out. But what is the actual platform that this is on, so as far as availability for people who want to try something like this? So
we're using Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive. The two platforms we use. Mm-hmm. We need to use the higher end platforms at this stage because the graphics quality that we need for the number of characters, so the graphics processing overhead is quite significant. But of course, as this technology moves on, we're seeing advances, and I think that the headsets themselves will become untethered over time, and that will certainly improve access to these treatments in clinic. Yeah,
definitely. I think we're seeing some of that even roll out now. I know Oculus is working on and HTC as far as those cordless sets that would bring the price down tremendously. Right now, where is this actually being utilized in the world, and where are people doing this? I mean, obviously, I'm assuming in the UK, but where else do you see this rolling out?
So our main projects are in the NHS in the UK, where we have a large clinical trial in psychosis, and we're also being used in a number of primary care mental health services. We have a project running in Hong Kong where we're working with the Chinese University of Hong Kong and AXA, the insurer, where we're delivering treatments to an employee population there. And we're just starting some work in the US. So I'm here in Denver for the VR Voice Conference this week, and which is hosted by the National Mental Health Innovation Center, which is part of CU here. And through CU, through the National Mental Health Innovation Center, we're running a number of trials in a number of different groups. So there's a psychiatry department, there's a mental health center in Denver that we're working with, and also a student population. So there's a number of different populations that we're trying this with to see where it's most applicable, where we get the best effect.
Yeah, can we talk a little bit just about this, why you're in Denver, and a little bit more expansive on what this is? From what I understand, it's the Virtual Reality and Behavioral Healthcare Symposium, or
Yep.
at least that's what's going to be coming up. So can you talk a little bit about that and what kinds of technology is involved in that?
Yeah, so there's actually a whole range of technologies on the show at the conference, and a number of people talking about the ways they've been using VR technology. And I think one of the striking things is the difference in approach between 360 video, which is very widely used, and I think potentially has some lower technical overheads, but I think it's still pretty pricey to build. And the approach we've taken, which is certainly the sort of higher end, which is building virtual worlds with virtual characters with which you can interact. And the big difference between those is you can use the 360 video on standalone headsets. It probably is slightly quicker to build. The approach we've taken maybe takes a wee bit longer, is slightly more expensive, is limited in headsets, but gives you a much more immersive therapeutic experience. And key to what we do, and I guess this is what I was talking about yesterday in particular, as I spoke at the conference, is the use of a virtual avatar coach. So VR has been used significantly for exposure therapy, where people get exposed to the things that trigger their intrusive thoughts. What we have is a virtual coach who guides you through those processes, but also does what a therapist would do in therapy and asks you to start analyzing your intrusive thoughts and safety behaviors, and asks you to start actually asking yourself the question, is this helping me or is this holding me back? And through that practice, through that repetitive process of asking those questions as you're in these challenging situations, you become more tolerant of the situation and less challenged by it. And all the evidence from Daniel's work over the last 18 years is that these learnings transfer readily to the real world, which is the key thing about VR therapy. If it doesn't translate to the real world, kind of what's the point doing it? So and that's the sort of key thing we've demonstrated.
And what's been the response so far from people who have been treated via this system?
So you were showing a couple of videos earlier of a couple of people we had in Oxford on the acrophobia program, and it's been really, really positive. We've had very high recovery rates and very positive engagement rates. Very few people actually who start therapy then drop out, and it's quite a significant problem in face-to-face therapy. About half the people that start it don't complete. So we've got very high completion rates, and the satisfaction rates we're seeing, people generally say very good things about the therapy they've received, and we've done it in a number of different ways. So in the clinical trial, people were coming into our office for maybe 2 or 3 sessions a week over 2 or 3 weeks. So they did between 6 and 8 sessions on average. We actually, when we brought the control group back in after we completed the clinical trial, we experimented with intensive sessions. So we had a few people who would come in for 3 hours. So they do 2 hours of VR, so 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off, so 2 hours over a 3-hour period. And we saw a similar effect for those people that we've seen for those people coming over several days. And that was really exciting because it means that you can go and get treatment in a very efficient way, without really messing your life up too much by having to attend therapy sessions too frequently.
I love this. I mean, if this can help in any way, shape, or form, it sounds like such an amazing platform to do that. As you said, you're doing the research, and this is really sounds like it's working. And I want to know, for people who want to find out more information about this and follow up with everything that you're covering, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, I mean, through our website is probably the best place, oxfordvr.org. I mean, the other thing is to contact the National Mental Health Innovation Center here at CU. So pick up their website. I mean, actually, if you listen to their Crazed podcast as well, we've got a podcast on there which is probably worth listening to. So it's a little bit about the work that they do here at the center. And I think for anybody in the US looking to engage with this, those guys are probably the best gateway into working with us.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for joining us here on Digital Trends Live to talk about some of your work and what you're doing. I think it's fantastic what you're doing to help people out, and I look forward to finding out more about the studies and different ways that we can, help alleviate some of these symptoms that people have. And thank you so much for joining us here on Digital Trends Live.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
So that's great. Something that we love doing here on Digital Trends Live is talking about different ways that tech can help out, whether it's mental health issues or anything in the health industry, the ways that tech can be applied to that. So that's it's always great to find out about that. If you want to find out more information, he just let you know. We also have a lot of articles at Digital Trends too, if you want to find out more about different ways technology is being applied in the biomedical field. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. We've got Mr. Adam Kaslikowski, who's going to be joining us here shortly to talk about automotive tech. He's been out for a little bit, he's back, and there's a lot that's going on in the world of automotive, so he's gonna cover some of that, and we'll be doing that live, so stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks for watching. Drop in your comments, your questions, whatever you have as we go throughout the show, because we are live, we are interactive. I saw somebody questioning that on YouTube, so just to make sure you know, Hanuti, yes, we're live. So thank you for joining. Drop in your questions. Let's do this, though. We like to keep you up to date on everything that's going on in tech, and that includes automotive, and we have no better expert than Mr. Adam Kaslikowski, who is joining us here right now. Hello, Adam.
Hello, Greg. How are you?
Doing good. Always good to have you back here on the show. As usual, we're going to find out about what that car is behind you at the end of this segment, but we need to catch up to date on what's going on in tech, and I know there's a lot. I'll just let you kick it off. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, let's get into the news first. Probably the scariest news we need to deal with right up front is AAA, the kind of insurance and roadside help company. They conducted a survey of emergency braking systems. So these are the systems where you're driving in your car, you're looking at your phone like you shouldn't be, and the car brakes on its own because it detects something in front of you. Well, they tested these systems with pedestrians, with adult and child mannequins, just mannequins, and they found they shockingly don't work that great.
Wow. So this is something that so many people are relying on now too, because which I agree, you shouldn't necessarily. I feel like that's a safety thing, but people are going to be looking at their phones. People are doing that. And if this system's not working, that's terrifying.
Indeed. So they found that the systems really work in the sunshine with an adult-sized mannequin. They worked 60% of the time. In other words, they don't work 40% of the time.
Yeah, 60% of the time, all the time is not good enough.
I might even have that backwards. Let me check here. No, okay. They failed 60% of the time. They only worked 40% of the time. I'm sorry.
Even worse. It was still bad enough already. Now it just gets worse. So how did it make it this far being that bad?
Well, I mean, the argument is they are a safety net. You shouldn't be relying on them. Yes, when they work 40% of the time, that's great. That's 40% of the time that we're saving people's lives or cars from accidents hitting other cars. 40% of the time is still an improvement, but if you're relying on them, if you think this feature is foolproof, you're gonna kill someone.
Yeah, that's horrifying. So everybody needs to be aware of this.
When they tested child-size mannequins, the results were even worse. And when they tested full-size mannequins at night, the report simply said, these systems do not work at night.
So
it
what?
80% to 100% failure rate at night.
So what happens next with these systems?
Well, I mean, we're definitely going to see pushback from automakers saying, yeah, don't rely on these. We put these in to help you, not to do the driving for you.
Yeah.
But obviously, we need to see some sort of improvement in the technology to catch up to people's expectations.
Yeah, I think the marketing of it too, you got to change up that somehow to make people educated, because people are going to go with oh, it's auto braking. Oh, all right, cool. Then I don't have to brake. You know,
Yeah.
that's the world we live in. So you got to market better and explain that better. Well, that's scary. I'm glad that we know about it now, so you can check that out. Digitaltrends.com, learn about that. Let's go on to something else. Let's talk about Hyundai and some of the things that they're doing.
Yeah, let's change to some happier news. Let's look into the future. So Hyundai just invested in a company called Netrodyne. And the reason we're covering this, we don't cover a lot of investments. The reason this is interesting is Netrodyne does cameras and AI software for self-driving cars. And Netrodyne is really all about cameras or normal vision self-driving and not LiDAR. So this is Hyundai kind of putting their money behind camera self-driving versus LiDAR self-driving, which are kind of the two camps we're seeing develop inside the self-driving world.
Yeah, LiDAR I feel like is something at least that we hear about more predominantly. So going with this camera side of things, what are some of the advantages of doing that?
Sure. So kind of the difference between the two camps is LiDAR can see through objects like snow, rain, or fog. You know, it penetrates right through them and finds solid objects. That's great. LiDAR is incredibly expensive to put on cars. It's like $100,000 worth of sensors on each self-driving car. Cameras are much cheaper, but they can be befuddled by snow, rain, fog, what have you. So those are kind of the two camps. So this AI technology in Netrodyne, you know, they're saying, oh, the computer can figure out that it's raining and look through the rain, look through the snow, look through the fog, things like that. It remains to be seen whether that's true or not, but these are kind of the two camps in self-driving, and Hyundai has now thrown their lot in with the camera pack. Mm-hmm. And really, the only other person that had been there before was Tesla.
So that's relying more on the software to interpret what it is that it's seeing, rather than on just hard data of this is, you know, it's seeing through things. So that's a lot to try to actually process about how that's going to work out. But these are two different camps, and we're seeing so many different people testing out their autonomous vehicles right now. I mean, everywhere. It seems like every day you're finding new places where they're going to be testing. Vegas, I know, is starting it. LA is going to have it. Lots of places. So that's interesting to see the two different camps and to see what comes out.
I think what's most interesting about this is previously Tesla had been the only one saying, no, forget about LiDAR, just cameras, and everyone said they were crazy. And, you know, it was Tesla being Tesla doing their own thing. Everyone was fine with that. And now all of a sudden Hyundai seems to be going into that camp as well. And that's kind of, I mean, this is the first blessing from a major automaker that, yes, this actually is the way to do it. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out and if any more people defect to that camp.
I heard that shot to Tesla right there. All right, let's go. Let's continue on. Something else that we have, and talking about Tesla, with the whole Smart Summon feature that rolled out to so many cars. There's been some interesting videos that have come out, but what do we have to say about this?
Well, I have nothing to say about it. I am a journalist. I only report the facts. I do not report opinions.
100%.
Okay, so Tesla just rolled out their Smart Summon feature. They've been working on this for a while. I think we've been seeing it for a few years. You're in the parking lot, you're at the restaurant, wherever. You ask your car to come to you those 20, 50, 100 feet, and it comes and picks you up and you get into the car. Well, Tesla just actually released it in a wide basis to most of its customers, people who opt into it, and it doesn't seem to be ready. It is causing accidents. It is causing confusion in parking lots where the cars just freeze. There's so many videos on YouTube. I encourage you to go check them out, where these systems are just not working at all.
Yeah, some of the videos, I mean, the ones where it's just nobody's getting hurt, clearly, you know, where it's just running into the side of a garage. There are some pretty entertaining ones as far as how it's working, but that's also a big issue when we talk about these autonomous vehicles. If it's not, even the Smart Summon feature is not working right, like, what is Tesla going to do about this?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a parking lot, so it's a pretty stable ecosystem. There's not a lot of people or or kids running around or cars turning every which way and bicyclists. It's a parking lot. It's pretty stable. And we're talking about speeds of under 20 miles an hour, and the system is unable to cope. It seems completely unready for launch. And now, because of the videos, because of the complaints, because of the accidents, the NHTSA, the Road Safety Board of the US government, is actually investigating or looking into whether this is a safe system or not. It's not a full-blown investigation. I don't think there's real paperwork yet on it, but they're looking into it.
Well, it's something to stay on top of, and I think it just kind of further proves that we're a ways away from fully autonomous vehicles. Both of those last stories are kind of indicative of that, and you can read more about those at digitaltrends.com. We need to find out about the car that is behind you right now.
All right, so let me get out of the way. This is a C2 Corvette convertible. The reason I chose this week for my background is we just had the release of the new Corvette convertible, and it was the first time in history that the Corvette is going to a folding hardtop. Every other Corvette convertible had a soft top, so we now are making history with the mid-engine Corvette. It has a folding hardtop. So I had to get a Corvette behind me to kind of tie that together.
Someday we're going to work it out to where you just drive off in that car every time. But, I don't want to get in trouble right now. That is...
Every time I totally forget about it until you say that. I will next time we'll all drive off.
See if you can hotwire it. We'll figure that out live on the show. All right, well, Adam, thank you so much. It's great to have you back here talking about this and keeping us up to date. Check out all of Adam's articles at digitaltrends.com. Thanks a lot.
I look forward to next time. Thank you.
All right, we have lots coming up here on Digital Trends because we're going to be heading to New York next. I got to get to a break, but we've got Michelle Romano in studio with Jeremy Kaplan, our editor-in-chief. That's coming up. We've got Bill Oakley, who's going to be joining us. We've got more news that's going to be coming. Lots of stuff to cover. We're broadcasting live. Drop in your comments, your questions. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. So hit that subscribe button to make sure you get the notifications. And I'm Greg Nibbler here in Portland, Oregon, but this is not our only studio. We're going to head now to New York, where editor-in-chief Jeremy Kaplan is standing by with Michelle Romano. But I'm going to pass it off now. Hello, Jeremy.
Welcome to Digital Trends Live. Of course, we love talking about the technology and the gadgets that make your life better. But today we're doing something a little different. We're talking to a person who helps the people who make the gadgets and services better. Michelle Romano, thank you very much for joining us on Digital Trends.
Oh, it's great to be here.
So you are the co-founder of ClearBank,
Yeah.
co-founder and president, I should say. Can you tell us a little bit about ClearBank? What's it all about?
Yeah, so I was a bootstrapped entrepreneur myself, had built a couple e-commerce companies. One of them I actually ended up selling to Groupon. And it was
A small company.
after, little in Chicago. And it was after that I was invited to join the cast of the Canadian version of Shark Tank, which is called Dragon's Den.
Dragon's Den.
And so I've been an investor on the show, seeing all these companies, and founders kept coming on the show, giving up so much equity to basically go buy Facebook and Google ads. Because just like you said, everyone wants these incredible gadgets and e-commerce products and stuff that's easy to buy online, but they have to get those sales from somewhere, and typically that's generated through ads. And so what founders have typically had to do is give up equity to go buy those ads. So they're giving up a piece of their company that they're never going to get back.
Right.
And so on
And
the
guidance and oversight and control. And all
exactly,
sorts.
you're giving up control. You're giving up a piece of your company. Like it's a pretty big stake that most venture capitalists are taking. And so on the show, I actually remember seeing one of these companies that was just giving up a huge stake of equity to go buy ads. And I said, look, I'm going to throw out a different deal type. I'll give you the 100 grand in capital you're looking for. But instead of taking any equity, I'll take 5% of your revenue until you pay me back $106,000. So I was only really charging 6% for my capital, not very much. If the founders used my capital to grow, I got paid back a little bit faster. And if their business slowed down, I would just wait the course with them. So it was really not a loan. There was
It's a very different deal.
It's a very different deal. And it wasn't a loan. Like there was no personal guarantee or compounding interest or
Right.
fixed payment timelines. Like it was a true revenue share with the founder where we were aligned on the same things. And that effectively became the first ClearBank deal. So ClearBank is the fastest, most affordable growth capital for growing e-commerce companies. This year we will invest over $1 billion, $1 billion in 2,000 different D2C companies, which is pretty crazy.
So wait, let's step back a second.
Yeah.
Can I get $100,000?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a business that's doing more than $10,000 in revenue a month and you're
Well, no,
using a digital
I
channel.
have nothing and I have terrible ideas. So I'm the wrong person. Who
I
does.
don't believe that for a second. I think you see great ideas and probably have amazing ideas.
Here's what I see. I talk to people every day that have great ideas.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge, right?
You have
Is
a
how
hard time getting funded, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're like, what do we do? Where do I go? I've
Yeah.
got this idea, but how do I make a business out of it? And,
Yeah.
and I read all the time stories about people who said, it took me 9-10 years to make this happen. I had to sell a
Totally.
whole chunk of it.
Yeah, or I had to put my house on the line. Like, we're just trying to make it way easier for founders. Like, our product is called the 20-minute term sheet. You give us your data, and in 20 minutes, we can tell you how much capital we can give you and the terms of that capital. And it's all about making it fast and simple. And this is really because 40% of VC dollars now go to Facebook and Google Ads. Like, it's a huge percentage.
preposterous.
And
They don't need that money.
founder dilution is at an all-time high. Like if you look at the big success stories of the last year, right? The Uber, the Slack, Peloton, all these companies going public, the founders own less than like 8% of these companies. It's kind of crazy. So I think that's why
Yeah.
ClearBank's in the market, and that's really why we exist.
So tell me about what sort of companies you go, either businesses or ideas that you look for in particular?
Yeah, so at ClearBank, it's really e-commerce companies. So if you're selling a physical or a digital good, that could be something, Public Goods is one of our customers, so they create a ton of unbranded merchandise. Lisa
Their
Sleep.
business is only one product in every category, but it's the right one.
Exactly. Lisa Sleep is one of our customers, and so, a bed-in-a-box mattress that comes to your house that's super comfortable. Latote is one of our customers, and so they can range from, as small as we just backed this entrepreneur in Orlando. She started a company called Scrunch It that's all about making hair products for curly-haired women
Nice.
that couldn't get, isn't a big enough market segment to get on a drugstore shelf, but is building in a fantastic e-commerce business.
Very
And
cool.
so, literally, as long as you're selling a physical or a digital product online, even if you're selling an app online, that works for us, and you're using some form of digital ad spend to acquire those
Right.
customers.
So I'm told you guys have created something called Founders School.
Yeah.
Which aims to, I guess, address some of the pain points that you see on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things for us is, me and my co-founder were both founders. He had raised a lot of VC dollars. I had raised none before this.
I
But
also have raised none.
But we really made like our motto internally, like we are by founders for founders. And this was not about creating a relationship where, investors sat at one side of the table and founders sat at the other side. It's like, how can we all be on the same page? And the best way we could do that is hiring a team at ClearBank that was all other founders. And so literally it's one of the things we screen for when you come work here. We want you to have had a business or have failed or succeeded in a business.
Sure.
Because it gives you that empathy. And then our onboarding program for all of our new employees is called Founder School. And so what we teach in those 2 weeks is every financial concept, but from a founder's point of view. So how do you think about, return on ad spend? How do you think about your burn rate? How do you think about how to fund your company? And so it's created a very different thing. I think it's been very controversial because people are like, well, look, if you're building a group of founders at ClearBank, aren't those people going to leave you? And the answer is probably yes. We celebrate when people go on to their next chapter after ClearBank, which is typically building a company. But it's been really differentiated for us.
So I just keep coming back to this. There must be some commonalities, right? What sort of what are the common things you're seeing? What sort of traps do founders constantly fall into? Or what's the one biggest mistake that people make when they go after founding a company?
So maybe I'd divide that into two things. The first mistake that people make is that they don't start soon enough. That there's always this belief, if you haven't been a founder before, that you need a perfect idea, that there's perfect timing, that you don't have enough money, you're not in the right time in your life. Like, make no mistake. It's like there is no perfect idea. You just have to get started, and then as soon as you get started, you can start kind of iterating and trying your way in to get something to work. And then I would say the second mistake is on that same line, whereas your first product probably isn't going to work. I mean, I've spent my whole
That's a horrible thing to say.
I've
got a baby inside of me. It's a great idea. How do I make it work?
And that's why people hold on to their first ideas for way too long. They need to keep iterating and figuring out what's going to work. Taking the best of, like, you know, the first thing that they tried and been like, well, market didn't quite like this, but they did like this like 20%. Let's double down on this and just tweak it a little bit. Because it is that iteration that ultimately creates incredible innovation.
Sure.
And that, first of all, should lower the standards to getting started. I mean, I remind people, like, when Airbnb started, they weren't, you know, the largest hotel chain in the world. They didn't aspire to do that. They started as a little app, not even an app. They just put air mattresses at people's nearby houses near sold-out trade shows. And saw people wanted to stay there. And so, you know, big ideas can start really small. And so I think that the number one mistake people make is they don't get started soon enough, and then they don't keep iterating till they get something that works.
It's understandable, though, because it's probably terrifying to jump in.
Of course.
I've got this thing. How do I turn this idea concept into a business? It's just terrifying.
And it's a lot of risk, right? And so I think that's a little bit of why we built ClearBank, because we can take a little bit of that risk away from founders.
But tell me about you, because you founded a half a dozen or more companies yourself, right? What's the hardest lesson you had to learn?
Oh my goodness. Like everything, like running out of money, like people not paying me, you know, having ideas not work. Like there was, I don't think there was like a single mistake. You kind of keep learning and growing. But I think I was incredibly trustworthy probably early in my career. And I learned a little bit more of you have to be trustworthy, but you also have to verify as things go on.
And all of those, I guess all of those life lessons roll up into the concept of Founder School. You're coming here, you're giving us, or we're going to help support you and grow you. We're also going to train you in some of the mistakes to avoid, some of the things you should watch out for, pitfalls to dodge, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. And so we want, you know, we think that if we hire founders, they can have that empathy in terms of talking to our other founders, and they can really understand the concepts from their perspective.
Well, so I have to ask you about Dragon's Den. You kind of casually glossed over it. 12 seasons running now, right?
Season 14 now.
14, oh my gosh.
Yeah, we just went live with season 14 last Thursday.
What's that show like? It must be, I mean, is there just crazy pressure? Is there tons of...
You know, this format has had such, it's so compelling because everyone has a dream and everyone wants to see that dream come alive. And there has always been this natural tension between, you know, the folks that have dreams and the folks that have money to fund those dreams.
Right.
And I think one of the things that's interesting about the show is it remains really topical because we actually see the businesses that people are thinking about today. So this year we had a whole episode devoted to like recycling and upcycling, right? Everyone is like, ditch the plastic.
I love it.
How do we get less single-use plastics? And so I think we saw 10 pitches this year that were all on this topic. And so you get to really see, you know, what's happening in the market from a very early stage perspective, and people love it.
So Dragon's Den, Shark Tank, these shows are both about pitching. I want you to pitch me. Why should Americans watch that show versus Shark Tank?
Well, number one, Dragon's Den was the original. It was started almost 4 years before the U.S. one. And
I'm sure people don't realize that, actually.
Because the Americans typically do things before Canadians, but this time the Canadian version was twice. In fact, you know, both Robert Herjavec and Kevin O'Leary were on the Canadian show for about 6 years. We're pretty feisty on the Canadian version of the show, so you get to see some very good drama. And then it's an equal, all half female, half male panel. So you see some real diversity of views. We all got onto that panel for very different reasons, and so you get to see a lot.
Well, Michelle, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you very much for joining us. We have to cut to break right now, but and while we're gone, by the way, you're going to give me $100,000, right? We'll figure out what that looks like.
Yeah.
We've got some ideas. Some of them.
You have to go to clearbank.com.
At clearbank.com, you can. I will put my pitch in. We'll figure this out.
Perfect.
We've got a lot more show coming up right after this, so please do stick around. We'll be right back. Thanks again.
Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thanks for joining us. We broadcast live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you tech headlines, news, interviews, and discussions. Now it's time to keep you up to date on some news. We're going to roll through a few here really quick, and I want to thank everybody for joining us, for dropping your comments, your questions. As we go through the show, we have Casey Gauze coming up. We have Bill Oakley coming up. But first, I want to tell you about an electric plane. So here it is. This is we talked about one yesterday, actually, from an independent company. This is actually NASA's own all-electric plane. It's called the X-57, and it's one of those things where it's a plane that is that much closer to actually flying. So it's called the Maxwell aircraft, and it's taking the agency closer to a comprehensive testing of its first all-electric vehicle. And we have, we've been able to see it, we've been able to see it in action and take a look at it. So this is something where the manager of the X-57 project said it's the beginning of a new phase in the exciting X-Plane project. So the X-Plane project is something they've been working on for a long time. There's been many different iterations of it, but this is one in particular for the last few years that they want to work on. There's a few different aspects of it. They said that it can reach a cruising speed of 175 miles per hour. They said it can actually, the range of the aircraft is around 100 miles an hour. So it can actually cover a lot of distance in a really short amount of time. And so one of those things, with that is the different applications that we could see with this particular plane as you go forward. And I'm assuming there's going to be a lot that they're going to apply with it, definitely when it comes down to dealing with different situations as far as exploration on other planets. But that is the X-57, so a pretty amazing plane. Pretty cool thing. And the big news here is that they actually took delivery on the first one. So it's known as the Modification 2, and that's the X-57 Maxwell aircraft. So it's getting that much closer to actually going all out with all electric planes. All right, so something else that we want to bring up too is just keeping you up to date on what's going on in the news. And I like to talk about some robots, and I feel like it's appropriate that we learn about some of them. This is one from Caltech. So we know that MIT, Caltech, a lot of different universities, Cambridge, are working on experimental robotics, working on soft robotics, working on the combination of different kinds of robotics. And this one is definitely a combination of the two. So what we are going to see here is actually a robot combined with a drone. And it's something that we've talked about before. We've seen some news of this before, but there you go. So it's this robot balancing on its two legs, but it's using its little drone arms to keep it in place. And there's a few reasons for this. You may be wondering, why? Why on earth would we do this? Well, they do have their reasons. So this one is actually called Leonardo, which is short for Legs Onboard Drone. And this is the first video that we're getting to see of it. So that's the 2 times speed, showcasing what it can do. So it's very lightweight, which it has to be in order to have its little propeller arms hold it up. And the reason that they're doing this is they're trying to figure out different ways that we can actually incorporate balance into drones. You can keep it lightweight, and that's one of the really big things. Now, powering it, that's something that they still have to figure out. You can see that the power is still being worked out in that aspect. But that's the Leonardo drone from Caltech. So what do you think of that? Let me know what your comments are on that. How do you feel about a drone-powered robot? Because it's not the first time that we've seen that. We've seen a lot of different experimentation when it comes to adding robotics onto drones. I mean, if you look at Boston Dynamics and some of their robotic dogs, imagine putting some propellers on it, and there you go. There's Black Mirror. So this is something that they're doing, though, and really the balance side of things and how they're able to do that actually is pretty amazing when it comes to technological achievement. So able to counteract and work with its environment. If you think about different safety situations or environmental disasters or human-made disasters, whatever, a disaster where a robot would have to go in, but say it has to be delicate and not heavy and be able to balance on very tiny things and not to disturb the environment that it's going into. This would be a great way to do that. Another thing is applications for, again, planetary exploration. We're going to see some different drones being instituted for the very first time on one of the next Mars missions, where we're going to have these little helicopter drones flying around. This could be something that could combine with that as well. So we'll see where it goes. Right now, it's kind of just a cool experiment, but there it is. That is Leonardo from Caltech. All right, let's give you one more here, one more topic to cover before we go to break, and we'll be having our guests who are going to be joining us. Or actually, we may go straight to our guest. We'll let you know that here in a minute. Stay tuned. That's a spoiler. All right, so here is this. We talk about drones on the show, but what about anti-drone measures and how that's being handled? We've seen different ways that different organizations have been trying to do this. There was the giant anti-drone gun that would shoot electromagnetic waves at drones to bring them down. We saw, I believe it's in Sweden, where they were actually training falcons to snatch drones out of the sky. That one's just fun. But that's probably not feasible worldwide to everybody have their own attack falcon. I want one, but nonetheless, that's probably not going to be it. What we're probably going to see is different ways along those electromagnetic lines, or this. This is a company called Anduril Industries. So it's founded by a guy named Palmer Luckey, one of the co-founders, and who is also, of note, the founder of Oculus VR and the designer of the Oculus Rift virtual reality headset. So somebody who knows their tech, knows what they're talking about, and this is how they say you take down drones. And allegedly, the military, the US military, has started purchasing these. That's their Anvil drone. And what they can do is it will hunt down other drones and just smash into them at up to 100 miles an hour and take them out. They're saying, forget about all the other electromagnetic ways, forget about the tech side, just smash it. And that's how you're going to take these things down. So there is some pretty amazing tech behind it. So the anti-drone is equipped with electro-optical and infrared sensors that allow it to spot, track, and intercept targets. So it's basically like a heat-seeking missile drone to take down other drones. It can respond very quickly to what the other drones are doing. So if they take evasive measures, it's able to counteract that. And they're saying that this may not be, there it is. That's still fun to watch no matter what. But that's what they're looking at. And again, this is a military application of what they're doing right now. Palmer Luckey actually told Bloomberg in an interview, all the soft kill systems are a waste of time. Specifically saying that you could jam those, that it's not going to work. They're going to come out with anti-jamming technology. But the one thing they can't do is stop a 100-mile-an-hour drone smashing into it and just with brute force taking it down. So it's an interesting application. The more drones that come out, this is always something that we talk about, drone safety. As far as safety, think of events or any kind of large public gathering. Drones, we do need to come up with some different safety programs for it. But this is theirs and what they're planning to do. You can read more about that at digitaltrends.com. And I thank everybody who joins us here on Digital Trends Live. We have lots of things that we like to cover here, and we like to keep you up to date on news, interviews, headlines, discussions, and that's what we're going to do right now. So we're going to talk about a different kind of platform. We're going to talk about retail sales, Amazon. We all buy on it, but a lot of us also sell on it. So let's actually talk about some different ways that we can do that better, and that's what we're going to do right now. We have joining us the CEO of Viral Launch, Casey Gauze. Casey, thanks for joining us here on Digital Trends Live.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Let's talk about, I want to get into this and discuss Amazon and how you can sell better on there and the different platforms that you have, but can you give us a little bit of a background of Viral Launch and what exactly it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have helped well over 10,000 brands drive more than $10 billion in sales on Amazon. We look at ourselves as kind of an end-to-end solution to help everyone understand the data side of what should I sell, how much could I be selling, all the way through kind of optimization, going and managing your Amazon advertising, driving SEO, really focus on driving results, but taking kind of that end-to-end approach.
So, and there is so much involved in that. I know a lot of people are getting onto the platform now, but let's walk through that process of, say, somebody wants to get on there, they want to start selling, maybe a very beginner, and what some of the tips are and tricks that you would have them walk through.
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of have two different segments. You have brands, established brands that are maybe selling into retail that are then looking to add their portfolio or add certain products to Amazon. And then you have kind of these third-party sellers that are just looking to make some extra money online. Now, traditionally, those third-party sellers have been the majority of our customers, but those third-party sellers, literally, we have a couple of customers that are making over $100 million a year. Guys like you and I that are just selling products on Amazon, which is insane. So in the beginning phase, it's all about the data. It's all about understanding the gaps in Amazon's catalog. It's all about understanding what's selling well, what isn't, and then kind of identifying, keywords and different tactics to actually go and have some success. So we have some tools that will give you data. You can estimate search volume in particular markets and find related keywords to understand kind of market potential. You can also look at what, the sales volume is of some of the top sellers in the market. Kind of one of the biggest tricks right now that will help you with is you can go and plug in some of the top sellers for, these obscure products, let's say bachelorette party gifts or whatever. Right. And you can plug in some of those top sellers. You can see what the sales volume is, but you can also see what keywords are they ranking for. Because on Amazon is a search engine essentially, and they send traffic through these keywords. Customers searching for bachelorette party supplies, bachelorette party gifts, so many keywords related to the market, and understanding what the right keywords are and getting in front of that traffic is really kind of the name of the game. And then driving the conversion after that.
What are some of the ways that you're able to gather all of that data? Because that's just a tremendous amount to actually go through. How do you analyze that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that we're gathering this data. Amazon has some APIs that we're able to grab from.
Gotcha.
I mean, we have customers that are doing $10 billion in sales that we're able to leverage a lot of that data to better understand different marketplaces. Now we don't use one customer's data to help their competitors, but
Right.
It does definitely improve our perspective on the space. And then obviously, like, we're going and grabbing a lot of this data first party ourselves as well. And then a lot of our tools are kind of these data tools to help you understand the marketplace, what areas to jump into and why, essentially.
Let's talk about it from the consumer experience side too. Like, how are brands marketing more to consumers? And we see a lot of customization being a huge trend when it comes to brand experiences, as far as on the consumer side, tailoring just to them. How do we see brands adapt to that, especially on this Amazon platform?
So the good thing, for the good and the bad. So the good from the consumer's perspective is, like, the smart thing that Amazon's done is just open it up to so many people to sell. And so competition is so high. So brands are so focused right now on beating their competitors, which means better prices, better quality of products, better packaging. So brands are spending a significant amount of time, like, just trying to improve the customer experience because they're trying to get that leg up against the competition, which just makes that much better of a shopping experience for Amazon. And then as Amazon has kind of rolled out more advertising spots and have put a greater focus on advertising, brands are paying more and more money to kind of get in front of the buyers, which is artificially, in a sense, saying, hey, if you're not a big seller, you don't have a big budget, then you are not going to be able to kind of afford to get in front of customers to even give them the chance to buy your product. So it is kind of a great way for Amazon to almost, artificially or by proxy kind of filter out some of these smaller players, if you will.
So if you are one of the smaller players, what are some of the ways then, getting back to that, to try to get into there? You mentioned, just people like you or I, or somebody who's just starting out at something, and how do they get through all of that madness?
Yeah, no, that's the $1 million question. So There's kind of two answers there. Answer number one is if you're just getting started, then you should really be looking for these gaps in the market where there aren't that many competitors. The competitors that are in there are not very sophisticated. They're not spending very much money in terms of advertising. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to, get into the game, and that you're going to learn so much through that process. You're going to be so much better. You're going to gain the experience so you can go into those more competitive markets. So that's number one. Number two is if you are in a more competitive space, then you really have to play the Amazon game well. You have to really focus on finding the right keywords, finding keywords that people aren't paying attention to. Keywords are the name of the game. And then you have to focus on advertising and focus on efficiency. And you have to be willing to spend money and tend to lose money up front in order to make money long term. Again, ranking is the most important piece here. And the best ways to do that right now are advertising and promotions or rebates of some sort, where you're just helping sellers to find your product and in convincing them to buy your product to get the sales, to get the keyword ranking, to get the reviews, to get that visibility.
Because it's worth investing that in order to make sure that you can get up above that those other people. Because you're right, it is such a crowded marketplace. Because I feel like for some people, it can be a little bit daunting just thinking of how do I even get into this. But this is part of what that pathway is.
Exactly.
How do you see this evolving? Say, I'm sure it's evolved tremendously just since you started. But even now, like going forward, the more that we see this change and adapt, how do you see it evolving in say the next 2 to 4 years? We'll say.
Yeah, I absolutely expect it to get more and more competitive. I mean, over the last 5 years, we've seen so many, I guess, unsophisticated, if you will, people jump in with small budgets and be able to come in and really make a crazy $1 million lifestyle, living for themselves. And it's been amazing. It's been amazing to be a part of those journeys. And that's what we live for. But as people take Amazon more seriously, we're seeing brands really finally take Amazon seriously. And, they're really diving in and wanting to understand how can we actually drive success on Amazon? And advertising is just a small piece of that. So I think that we'll continue to see Amazon get super competitive. I think that we're going to see a lot fewer kind of mom and pop shops, or again, people like you and I jumping into the space to go and make, these 7-figure incomes. It's just getting more competitive, and you have to, again, spend money to make money. And the amount of money that you have to spend in order to get into the game is just getting that much more difficult. Now, I still think it's going to happen. It's just going to get more and more difficult. I think Amazon is going to continue to shift more traffic to advertising. I mean, it's a bread and butter opportunity for them. So I think the name of the game for sellers will be to find kind of alternative traffic sources to run in addition to advertising. So to kind of supplement that to drive ranking, because the cool thing about ranking is you could have a brand new product. You go and you drive ranking, and now you're selling 100 units a day from zero, or you're selling maybe 1,000 units a day if you get ranking for the right keywords and have the right offer.
So there's a lot that goes into it, and that's why you are there to help these brands figure that out. Well, for people who want to take advantage of all of your knowledge and all of your platforms and what you have there with Viral Launch, what's the best way for them to do it?
Yeah, just go to our website, viral-launch.com. We put out a lot of education and a lot of content to help people navigate through. There's so many nuances, but in the end, it's worth it because you can build just an amazing business for yourself. So.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Digital Trends Live. Really enlightening to try to understand a little bit more of that world and how it all works. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who want to take advantage of Viral Launch. And thanks for joining us here on Digital Trends Live.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, so interesting. We've learned a lot about tech today. We've covered so many different facets, and that's talking about that brand experience on Amazon and how the changing consumer experience, that's you and I, how that's going to be changing depending on how things go with the advancement of technology in that field. We have something else, though, for you today. Bill Oakley is here. He's going to be here in studio with us. We're going to talk about his rise to Instagram fast food critic fandom, all of that. We're going to discuss that. We've got so many things to talk about in association with it. If you have questions for Bill, drop those in on whatever platform you are watching on. We're broadcasting on a ton of them. So drop in your questions. We'll be back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thank you for joining us. We have so much fun here with this show, so hit that subscribe button. That way you get the notifications when we do go live, and we are going to have some fun right now. So I'm Greg Nibbler. I want to welcome to the show. You probably know him as the executive producer of The Simpsons, head writer for The Simpsons, let's see, Futurama, Enchantment. I mean, how many different shows, Disenchantment, so many different shows that you have been a part of that even I'm mixing them up.
Yeah, you know, they're all kind of the same type of thing.
Yeah, no difference between any of those. No, you've had such an amazing career. This is Bill Oakley joining us right here on the show. And there's all of that you've done, but now, Bill, you have found yourself in this new space as an Instagram fast food critic celebrity. A celebrity.
Let me make this. I don't want people to think that I have gone broke and that I'm doing this. I still have my regular jobs. You know, I still write for TV shows. I just finished a couple seasons of Disenchantment,
nice,
which is on Netflix, and I also have some stuff on Adult Swim, and I'm doing a book for Audible, and several other things like that. But my hobby is doing these Instagram fast food reviews. So I started this about a year ago, and it's really just because it's an outgrowth of the fact that I've always been interested in. It's not just fast food; it's also kind of snack food, convenience food, things from all over the world that people send me. And I basically, what I normally do is these little 59-second videos because that's the maximum amount of video you can do on Instagram, and they're moderately amusing, if I do say so myself.
I would say so.
I put about one or two a week, and then also on my Instagram story, I have a ton of stuff that not only of fast food items people send me from around the world, snack potato chips, exotic things like that, but also people send me their own reviews from exotic locations.
And that's the thing. So these videos that you have that are coming out, you know, they're fascinating for a few reasons, and I want to go into explaining and talking a little bit more about the fast food side. But I understand we want to roll like a full clip just so people can get the exact idea of what it is. So let's go ahead and roll this so we can catch everybody up to the same page here. If you have not seen these amazing videos, let's go ahead and roll.
This week, McDonald's opens a new front in the chicken sandwich wars with their own brand new spicy chicken sandwich, and I'm here to check it out. The parking lot was hectic, and because I really wanted to concentrate on the flavor, I found some place with fewer distractions. So this is pretty much your standard fast food fried chicken sandwich. It's nothing special, not a serious contender. This is not a destination chicken sandwich.
Okay, that is a perfect example, too, talking about the chicken sandwiches.
Yeah.
Like, let's get into some of the big fast food issues of the day.
Absolutely. Well, I think everybody who's been online in the past 2 months knows that the spicy chicken sandwich wars, that's the biggest thing. Since, you know, I guess Chick-fil-A was kind of the undisputed king of the chicken sandwich for decades, until Popeyes launched theirs like about 2 months ago, and it was the biggest, certainly the biggest item in fast food probably in the past 5 years because it got so much hype. And the fact is that Popeyes sandwich was so good that I think it was better than Chick-fil-A, and it was a shocking development for people who follow this kind of thing. And so there's been a lot of news about that, and I did that was certainly my most popular review just because of the newsworthiness of it. That got like 30,000 hits, 30,000 views, which is extremely high for me. And then so that's really the biggest thing. And then everybody else has been kind of tagging on. Like Wendy's is like, but our chicken sandwich is good. McDonald's is like, but our chicken sandwich is good. So I kind of wanted to do a roundup of the chicken sandwiches.
Yeah.
And then I actually did a follow-up to that one because it drove me so crazy that Wendy's was continuing. Look, there's the Popeyes and then there's the Chick-fil-A. I'm serious about this. There's the Popeyes and there's the Chick-fil-A. Then there's everybody else. You know, Wendy's, not even close. McDonald's, not even close. Wendy's continued to insist that they were close. And so I was like, okay, let's just do this scientifically. I had several different ones in Portland. Then I got people from all around the country to have Wendy's spicy chicken sandwiches. That's another review that was immediately after that one. You know, places from Toronto, from New Mexico, and from like Lompoc Federal Penitentiary in California, and so there's people. He was outside the penitentiary, and so people, and we all agreed. And you know, basically, I was right. The average grade was like a C minus. So that's a little bit more of kind of the crowdsourcing of the videos I sometimes do.
Which I want to talk about that side of it, but I have to ask. You know, in the end of the day, Popeyes or Chick-fil-A.
Oh, Popeyes.
It's Popeyes.
Yeah, but
so
the thing is, they're very different. They are very different, and Chick-fil-A is pretty pretty close in terms of how good it is, except that I don't agree with their politics, for one, and two, the sandwich is much smaller and not nearly as crispy. So it's a matter of taste.
So Popeye is winning out on that. I know I tried to go find one, but it was sold out everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is definitely an issue. I want to get into some more of the fast food sides, issues of the day. But you just mentioned that people are sending in videos from all over the place, and how weird has that been just to see this rise from, posting these videos because you're a fast food fan. And trying them out, to where now you have people sending in videos from all over the world, outside of penitentiaries or wherever they are.
Overseas, in particular, that's one of the things that got me started on this, was that there's always so much delicious fast food stuff overseas that we never see here.
Yeah.
Like McDonald's in the UK and Israel and Japan and India, they've always got all these crazy new items, and they got a lot of crazy new items too. Not like we get one new item a year. They get them like every month or something. So that's one of the reasons I was fascinated by this, and I have since gotten, I would say, probably hundreds of people sending me videos or photos of the items when they travel or where they live. And so just in the past couple weeks, I've had stuff from Singapore, I've had stuff from the UK, I've had stuff from Indonesia, I think, and places like that. Exotic items, KFC items and things. And people send me, sometimes they just send photos, other times they send videos, and I kind of edit into a little bit of my style of video, and I put it on my Instagram story.
And getting their thoughts on whatever it is that they're trying out there.
Yeah.
I know that we've talked about it before here on the show, at least, I think, talking about Japan and some of their different really crazy fast food items. Like, what are some in particular that you've seen that really stood out?
Well, the one I got a lot of photos of was, that really interested me, was the Domino. Domino's has a lot of unusual pizzas.
I know you're a fan of Domino's. I remember that from back in the day.
And not so much anymore. That was 10 years
changed.
ago.
All right.
That's 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
But they, other places have kind of raised their game in the meantime, But there's a lot of, the interesting thing about Japan is that it's a culture that is very into seafood, and has always been for centuries. And so they have a lot of fast food items with seafood that we don't have here, and particularly pizza. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a pizza other than sardines. Wait, not sardines, anchovies. That people, I don't even remember what people put on pizza here with seafood, because it's so weird.
Yeah.
In Japan, half the pizzas seem to have seafood, and it's like not just one, it's like there's like shrimp and octopus, plus other stuff like cheese and all this other stuff that you wouldn't really associate with seafood. So that was a good thing that somebody sent me from Tokyo just like 6 weeks ago, was a whole detailed review of like the Domino's special squid and octopus something or other.
No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But let's talk about the changing landscape of fast food. In particular with the veggie-based burgers. I mean, Impossible Burger, Beyond Burger, and really gaining traction to where you have these major fast food companies having them in their lineup. I mean, the Impossible Whoppers, that's huge.
Yes.
The fact that it is. How have you seen that change? That shift change, and then also how do you feel about those two? Have you taste tested the two against each other?
I have, and I have tasted a variety of different fast food, Impossible plant-based burgers, I guess is the terminology these days. But there's obviously Burger King's is the biggest. Let's just say we don't have White Castle around here. It's a regional chain. They had it with the sliders. They also Carl's Jr. launched last January their Beyond Burger, which I actually still think is the best of those burgers.
Really?
Slightly better than the Impossible Burger. I like the flavor. Beyond, I've had a lot of Beyond Burgers, several Impossible Burgers. Beyond has an aftertaste that sticks with you. Have you had one?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Doesn't it have kind of like a garbanzo bean, chickpea aftertaste, pea protein taste that sticks in your mouth for an hour or two?
I suppose it might. I mean, I tried it. I didn't try them side by side, so I guess I'd have to go back through and try it again.
I think it's a superior burger, but I don't like having that taste of peas in my mouth for the next hour. And the Impossible Burger is also very good. And I think for the sake of the environment, we should all, and I try to do this too, reduce our beef intake and so forth. So I'm totally fine with it. The burgers are about 85% as good at both of those places as their meat counterparts. So I'm in favor. They're also $1 more expensive too, which is kind of a pain in the butt. But hopefully that will come down over time. Now McDonald's. This is the thing. McDonald's is obviously the big player. It's the king of the fast food universe, and has not introduced a plant-based burger in the U.S. yet. But they're test marketing one this week and this past couple weeks in southwestern Ontario. And I have gotten 3 people who sent me reviews of it, which will be up on my story sometime in the next couple days.
That is amazing that people are sending in their reviews of that. And we actually talked about that particular story on this show because we cover Beyond and Impossible and everything that they're doing. looking at it from fast food in general, and I want to talk about just the Instagram side of things and what that's like, behind the scenes. What are some of the other big issues of the day when it comes to fast food?
I think those are probably by far the biggest
big
issues. Yes, there is. I mean, there's a ton of other issues that don't really factor into the reviewers' lighthouse or wheelhouse, which would be like the labor issues.
Oh,
that's a huge thing, but it doesn't really have much to do with how the food tastes.
Right.
That's probably the third biggest issue, and that happens. I think you may know that Burgerville is having a lot of labor issues in this town, which is why I haven't been doing any Burgerville stuff because I do support the union.
Right.
So there's been that angle of things, but other than that, it's really just kind of the standard churn of strange, Taco Bell introducing. Taco Bell specializes in combining the 12 ingredients it already has into a new item every couple of weeks, and they're often pretty good. Like other than the Popeyes chicken sandwich, my favorite item of the year so far was the Reaper Ranch Fries burrito, which was really terrific.
Okay, Reaper Ranch Fries burrito.
Yeah, I think it's gone now.
Okay. Yeah, well, actually, with that line.
Oh, and they got rid of the double-decker taco, too, at Taco Bell. That was huge news.
Which, I agree, that sucks. I like the double-decker
They revamped
taco.
the whole menu. They brought more vegetarian items onto the thing, but for some reason they got rid of the double-decker taco, which people have been loving for like 15 years now, including me. So I don't know what that was all about.
Is that going to be like a whole McRib situation where there's enough backlash to where they bring it back?
I think there will be, and they'll hype it just like Wendy's with their spicy nuggets. It's like, yeah. I mean, okay, we know you just took them away. It's this artificial scarcity that you've created.
Yes,
and so
they
might do it.
Do you ever worry that you're going to run out of fast food items to try?
No. Well, okay. That's sometimes I do, but there's always going back to revisit the classics like the Whopper or things like that. There's also a large spectrum of lesser known fast food places, like Potbelly sandwiches and people like that I like to give a chance to. And furthermore, I also, as I said, it's mostly fast food, but it's also convenience food and snack food. So sometimes I do frozen pizzas, sometimes I do things like that, the squeezable sauerkraut. You may have seen that review.
Yeah. Yes.
And sometimes, and I also do, most of the time that stuff is on my story because I usually save the videos. It's time consuming to do those videos, so I usually save them for the notable items.
Okay, so there's lots of area to expand.
Oh, definitely.
I mean,
and I can't keep up with the amount of stuff I have. So I have a room that is now half filled with exotic potato chips from West Virginia and hot sauce from Oklahoma and a whole bunch of Eastern European stuff. And I cannot keep up with the stuff that I have now in my house.
Wow. And that's amazing that people are sending this to you.
And I love it. I mean, it's really generous and kind of them. But I love to try these things. And once in a while, I do find something like the Pringles paprika potato chip.
That sounds good.
From France.
I would try that.
It is the best Pringles flavor I've ever had by far.
See, there's so much you can do. I mean, we can get into chips. I mean, that's a whole different discussion. So we get into chips, then I can actually really contribute on that. I have some opinions on those.
Oh, well, I don't want to interrupt you then. There's one other kind of chip that will blow your mind. I'm going to do this. This guy sent me this box of stuff from Singapore. And there they have these Lay's potato chips that are called Lay's cooling potato chips. And they have a cooling flavor, like it's extremely hot in Singapore, obviously. There's a cooling lemon flavor and a cooling honeydew melon flavor, and they are the weirdest things I've ever tried. I don't normally do a follow-up thing, but I think I'm going to do a whole video just about these kinds of chips because they are so strange, and they really do. They have kind of like like when you brush your teeth, there's kind of a tingle.
Like a mint,
yes, they have some sort of tingle on the potato chips. Very weird, and I look forward to doing a video about that really soon.
That makes me so worried about whatever that ingredient is. That's giving it that kind of aspect. But you put yourself at risk that we can all know.
I even ate the crickets. No, that's another thing that is. Did you see the crickets thing?
I didn't see that one.
Okay, you know that with the concern for sustainability, there's been a lot of talk about other alternative. There's been a lot of talk these days, Greg, about people eating insects.
Yes,
I don't know if
we have talked about it here on the show.
Okay, that they are the most sustainable. In fact, I just read a big article about what people are going to have to eat if they colonize Mars.
Right.
And insects is going to be one of the things because they're easy to grow and they're high in protein or whatever.
100%.
So there's been a lot of manufactured cricket snack food these days, and so they had this, these barbecue crickets and stuff that I reviewed. I did not care for them, but that's one of the things that I have gotten into that is a little bit more of the stunt. I try not to do stunt eating. There's enough people on YouTube doing this stunt eating. I prefer to do things that people can get and enjoy themselves if I happen to like them.
But that's becoming more common that you're seeing some more of that stuff, so that people can get cricket-based food.
Yeah, I got them at Cost Plus World Market, which is not like that's an easy place to find crazy stuff.
Well, okay, and I know we're running out of time, so we need to finish up here just because of that. But I want to ask you a couple other questions too, because being an Instagram influencer now, is it weird saying that out loud?
Well,
like Bill Oakley, Instagram influencer.
I'm such a minor compared to most influencers. I
just want to hear you say it.
I'm such small potatoes. Like most Instagram influencers have hundreds of thousands of followers.
Yeah.
I only have 20, but it's a very specific niche that I deal with. And I believe I'm the only person doing this type of thing on Instagram because it really isn't meant for this type of thing. It's not meant for videos, which is why they only let you have 59 seconds of video, period. So I do that. A lot of people do photographs of fast food, but I don't think people do videos of it. And so is it exciting to be an influencer? Not really. It's exciting to be. It's exciting to have people mail me this stuff. That's the best thing by far.
Right.
But in terms of like impressing any brands or companies or whatever, I've gotten several solicitations from certain brands that say like, "Oh, we'd love to have you do a thing or whatever." And I said, "Have you seen what my Instagram consists of?" And then they never respond because they look and they're like, "Oh yeah." Also, they don't like it that I criticize stuff. Like they prefer to have unquestioning people promoting their ice cream sandwiches or whatever it is. I'm not saying it was ice cream sandwiches that asked me to promote them, but it could have been. But like the thing about I think that people enjoy is the fact that I have a journalistic integrity with regards to things. So if I were to do advertising, it'd probably be for something else, like Chevrolet. You can hit me up.
You can make that 21 followers. Gated followers by the minute. Well, Bill, to let everybody else know too, definitely follow for the Instagram videos. But you mentioned at the beginning,
by the way,
you do some other things.
It is that Bill Oakley.
That Bill Oakley
on Instagram. I also have a Twitter account, but that is just usually for my political musings. So don't worry about that. Just check out my Instagram.
To fill everybody else in, just really quick, you mentioned all the other projects that you're working on. Any of those that you want to talk about?
No, because they won't be out for years. I'll tell you, this is the magic. This is the thing about TV that is so annoying, and also there's so many TV. Who can keep track of all the TV shows these days? It's much easier to keep track of my Instagram. Forget about the TV shows. Just keep track of my Instagram videos. Those projects don't come out for years.
Yeah.
And also there's 25 people giving me notes on them all the time and trying to rewrite them or whatever because they're paying for them. Whereas my videos don't cost anything to make, and thus I'm in charge of them. So you're seeing
100% that Bill Oakley.
What you're seeing has not been filtered through the executive process or through the ad buyers or any of that stuff. It is unfiltered.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for coming in here to talk about this. It's awesome to see what you're doing. And Bill's been a part of so much of what you probably love. Bill has been a part of. So this is just one more thing in your entire catalog of amazingness. And thank you.
Catalog of amazingness.
Catalog of amazingness.
Praise.
That was right on the copyright, right now. But Bill, thank you, and I want to say thank you to everybody who's tuning in to Digital Trends Live. I know we need to wrap up the show, so I'll just do this right now. We're here live every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you all this tech headlines and news and all kinds of other things. So hit that subscribe button. Just going back to the beginning of the show, we had Hanif Jackson in here talking about the new PlayStation 5. We have the release date. All that's at digitaltrends.com. We had Barnaby Perks, the founding CEO of Oxford VR, talking about VR in the medical field and how it's actually helping people out. Really incredible. Adam Kaslikowski, our automotive editor, talking about the biggest trends in tech and automotive. We had Casey Goss, the CEO of Viral Launch, talking about their platform and how they can actually help you sell on Amazon. We went to our New York studio where Jeremy Kaplan interviewed Michelle Romanow, so a great interview right there. And of course, the one and only, that Bill Oakley, here on the show. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will be back tomorrow with more Digital Trends Live.